Hey everybody, I think I've got my live stream going. I had to reset a bunch of stuff, so if you're watching this archived, this part is probably awkward. I'm about to draw completely blank page here, and I'm just giving it a moment to see if anybody filters in so that I can see if anybody hears me. Alright, somebody called Wolverine joined the chat room. Wolverine, can you hear me? It looks like my signal strength is good, but I'm just making sure the audio is coming through. Everything I'm seeing is showing that I've got signal strength, volume, camera, but if anyone out there can confirm that for me, that's super helpful. Let's see. We've got Lil Snickers, Tyreek Gregory. Okay, cool. Thanks, Wolverine. Channel Siskart. All right, you all are hearing me. Prowler, Tito, Tom Marsh, J. Andrew World, Molly Anderson, James Gleason. Wow, lots of people. Mandela Butterfly, welcome back. Sleepaway Camp. That is a good campy horror movie. That is like, it's not really a good movie, but the twist at the end does play well. Zach Couch from South Korea. Wow. Watching Unbreakable. All right, right on. I clicked so fast thinking that this said Mega Man. I'm sorry, it's not Mega Man. I've got a commission to draw a character named Megan from a comic book called Local. A very sort of slice of life type story. And so I'm just sort of gonna go right from scratch here. And because some people have said, hey, you know, you mostly just ink, and I understand that. So this might not actually be my best image because, you know, I'm used to doing several takes on my material. But we'll see. I don't mind trying something a little different here. And we'll just see how it goes. I'm going to have fun no matter what because this character wears sort of 90s grunge clothes, that kind of fashion, I'd like to say. Let's see, bunch of folks here. Let's see, Hunter Lion, Iqbal Ahmed, Mauricio, Watchful and Harmonious, No Hurt Feline, bunch of people. Yeah, Sleepaway Camp, the sequels are terrible, but the first isn't really that good either. I couldn't really defend it per se. If anyone was like, is this a good movie? It's like, no, it's an entertaining movie. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily a good movie. Thanks everybody for joining, because, you know, it's late on, like, you know, a work night and all. I didn't necessarily expect too many people here. Hello to Rojaws and Gygar and Iron Shell. Fave horror movies. For me, Jaws is way up there. Also The Shining. But I also like sort of like, you know, movies that are not necessarily as well respected. Like I'll have a great time watching any of like the Friday the 13th horror movies, for instance. Sleepaway Camp was so twisted. Yeah, it's pretty twisted, I guess. Let's see. Gonna give her a jacket. Gonna block in a head here, obviously. Come on, Chris. This person has a head, and it looks like I don't have my ruler, because I'm actually sort of thinking that this will have, you know, like a street, more or less. I wanted to do an actual perspective, but I'll just work on the character first, and I can always come back to the rest later. That's not a big deal. Right. Let's see. All right, what are people talking about? The Thing. Yeah, The Thing is a great horror movie. I love that one. Facts of Life with murders in it. Yeah. Do I have a favorite Aliens comic? Not necessarily that I can think of off the top of my head. Sorry. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 ended up being pioneering gay cinema. I know, yeah. It was just I'm pretty sure it was like written by a gay guy, and the actor was definitely the main guy was gay, but he didn't really he wasn't like super out about it, but it kind of plays, you know, the whole thing plays very gay subtext. It's not bad. I think that, like, I think Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is pretty dope. I've got a picture of Megan here on my phone that I need to look at because I need to get all. I don't know this character super intimately, you know. Hey, it's a challenge. There we go. Kind of short, poofy but stringy, black hair, a little bit of curls to it and such. Right on. This is going to be dope, folks. Wiley Parkhurst, great comic that you sent in. Great art, thank you. Exorcist is probably the best horror film ever made. Exorcist is strong. What kind of paper am I drawing on? That's a good question. It's called 234. Number 234 is like the weight of it. Paris paper. It's very smooth. Very smooth. Takes line, doesn't really smudge. Really good. Red Eye is... I wouldn't say that Red Eye is necessarily horror. Red Eye is more thriller, but that's just me. But it is a decent movie. Let's see here. It's fun to draw characters with a bunch of interesting clothes. It keeps the artist from getting bored, that's for sure. So bear with me as I figure out a few pieces of it, and eventually I'll get to inking and you'll be able to see it later. They've turned Chucky into an android in his latest movie. Oh, wow. What's your favorite era of the comics, like the 70s, for example? Oh, favorite era of comics? Well, it's probably, honestly, today. I dig the way comics look today. See, I'm just looking at her for sort of clothes and stuff, but obviously different pose and such. So this is how I think reference is totally fair to use. But I also, of course, like I started reading seriously in like the 80s, so that always sort of has a bunch of nostalgia and affection because that's when I started reading. And I will definitely be talking to you guys plenty more. I'm just roughing this out, so I just need just a moment or two to sort of concentrate and figure out exactly what I'm doing here, and then I'll be with you. I love cheesy bad horror movies like Cabin Fever and WrestleManiac. WrestleManiac I've never heard of. That's interesting. Chucky's now voiced by Mark Hamill. Yeah, Mark Hamill doing an impression still of Brad Dourif. Mom, can we get a comic story arc? Mom, we got a story arc at home. The comic story arc at home. Ultimatum. Whoa. Unlike drawing Dora, I'm so looking forward to drawing an interesting story. Okay. Cue the Winged Serpent. I've heard of it, but I have not seen it. Sorry. Not familiar with Cue the Winged Serpent. So let's see here. I've got her sort of off balance here. Can I correct that? I think so. Hope everybody's been enjoying the show lately. I got some fun ideas that I'm excited to get to, but everything in its time. Boy, I have been getting slammed the last few days with like people just, I mean, to be blunt about it, basically begging me to review their comic or sponsor their product, and it's tough because, I mean, I think you guys know I like to try to be nice, but it gets old really fast when, like, you just open your private email, your personal email, not your comic tropes even, and there's just tons of people asking you for things. Just get asked for things all the time nowadays. And you know what? Don't get me wrong. I am grateful for the success the channel is having. So it's like, is it worth it? Yeah, it's totally worth it. Like, it's not that big of a complaint, but it's just a lot to sort of handle when people are just constantly asking you for things, and you don't want to be rude. Like, I don't want to just blow people off. Like, it's a lot though. It's a lot. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, there's people like that are like asking me to like work with them on products that have like nothing to do with comics. Like, we're talking music and like clothes, and not like nerdy clothes, just like regular clothes. And I'm just like, no. Like, and you know, hey, it'd be revenue, so in that regard, that's kind of cool, but I don't want to like be selling stuff that like is not thematically appropriate to the show. So anyway, yeah, that's just something I'm dealing with right now. I got like 4 to 5 offers for different weird stuff that like I was just like, no, that doesn't suit the channel. And then a bunch of people just asking me to like review their comic. I get that like all the time. I always have, but it's tough because you're like, well, you know, I'm sure that like there's nothing wrong with hustling. There really isn't. Like, you know, you're trying to get your comic in front of as many eyeballs as possible. I know what that's like. I've been there. But I also just feel like you have to think, okay, well, what's in it for this guy? Like, if I'm coming to another channel with a comic to review, I don't just go, hey, will you please review my comic? I got to think, what's the selling point for that guy? Because first I got to convince him before I can convince anyone. Anyway, what is a currently published anthology I've only found now from Fantagraphics? Ooh, there's not too many anthologies that are coming out right now. There is White, the sequel to Black, but that is like a Kickstarter funded one. So I'm trying to think, like, beyond that, like if there's any big anthologies that are going on. I can't think of anything Marvel or DC is necessarily doing right now. Anyway, a lot of people want to self-publish and break into the comics biz. Totally respect that, James. I sincerely do. I just sort of like, you know, people like come to me almost expectant, like, hey, I've got a comic, so will you review it on your show? And it's like, well, no, and no offense, it might even be very good, but like, I don't do just reviews. If you actually watch my channel, I'm doing analysis of techniques or comic history. You know, it's either history or it's technique. It's not really just reviewing a comic. That's not really what I do. So it's sort of like, it's almost a little insulting that like people are asking for something from me and then they haven't like taken the time to look at what I actually do with my channel. So that's frustrating. Thank you, Crackhead God. Yeah, the channel crossed 50,000. That's nice of you to congratulate me, and I appreciate it. But also, you know, to a degree, sort of all thanks to you guys. So it's like, you know, I'm providing the content, but the 50,000 is each of you. So it's not like that part. I don't know. I feel like that's really thanks to other people in a way. Sorry, I'm just finding the form of my character to make sure that I'm sort of drawing everything in perspective properly. I know there's a lot more scratchiness to this than typical. What can I say? This is what I usually do that you don't see on the live stream, is me figuring out like how I'm going to tackle the drawing, and then I sort of light box this usually. But what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to try to just work straight to inks off of this. We'll see how doable that is. I think it's doable. If you publish a comic and you make a deal for the characters to appear in other media, it can be very lucrative. Well, yep, that's true. It depends on what rights you have to ownership. Anthology television seems to be killing it, in my opinion, with the continuing success of Black Mirror, The New Twilight Zone, and Love, Death, Robots. Yeah, I'd say that that's sort of true. And then you've got like whole anthology seasons like American Horror Story. So, yeah. Long form, I think that's more the thing that people like, is long form anthology. In other words, instead of a comic with like 5 stories by 5 different creators, it's sometimes a little more interesting to have books like when DC was doing Solo, each issue was by a different creator. So that might work. Where do you get the majority of your art supplies? Honestly, just like a local shop called Artist and Craftsman, just because that's the most convenient for me. I could probably save money by getting it online, but I usually sort of wait until I need it and then go, okay, time to go get some supplies. Alright, I think I'm ready to do some inking. Just sort of bear with me as I try to figure this one out. What do I do for a living? Right now, I'm a car salesman. I sell cars. It's not very exciting. It's not really what I studied, but it's what's paying the bills for now. By trade, I studied marketing in college and did that for about 15 years. And then I took a great job out here in the Pacific Northwest. I moved across the country for this job and worked there for almost 3 years, but then they downsized. It's a big company, and they had a bunch of layoffs, including me. I don't have a lot of people to network with out here, and I wanted to stay out here. So for now, I've taken a job selling cars. Definitely not something I thought I'd ever be doing. It's okay. I do all right at it. It's not exactly where my passion lies, but you know what? I do okay, and I do have to say that I really like the people that I work with. There's some really kind, clever, creative individuals, so that makes it better. Drawing a scarf here, just trying to give it some what do they call those dangly bits on a scarf? I can't even think of the word. I guess I'm tired. Chris sells Batmobiles. I wish. Let's see. Just want to say I really like your channel. So many comic vloggers are caustic, angry, and off-putting. You're a genuine guy with enthusiasm. Cheers from Argentina. Oh, well, thank you very much. And thank you. I'm glad that you were able to appreciate the El Eternata episode. Let's see. Wow, really a car salesman? Yep, that's what I do. I need a car. I am going to come see you. Well, you're going to have to come to the Seattle area, but I'm happy to sell to you. I actually, now that I think of it, I did have a guy about a little over a week ago who, after a certain point, he just goes, you look sort of familiar, and it turns out he sort of draws comics and stuff, and he was like, I feel like I've seen you, and I was like, well, I do have a YouTube channel, and he's like, I've seen it, and I was like, yeah. So that was kind of funny to get, like, I do get actually recognized every once in a while these days, not really much at work, but just sort of out and about. Like, if I'm in a comic book store or at a movie theater, sometimes I get recognized. It's very strange, very strange. Have I seen the Mandalorian trailer? Actually, I guess I haven't. I just sort of watched it sort of start to autoplay on like Facebook or something one time. It looked dope. And then I sort of was like, you've already sold me. I don't need to spoil myself on this one. I hope it is good. Looked cool from the little bit that I saw, and then I was like, that's enough. Stop drilling. You hit oil. Am I ready for Endgame? I am ready because Chrissy, my fiance, got us tickets, so I'll be seeing it on Friday. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that big time. Hope it's good. I'm pretty excited for it. I will admit, I'm actually really excited for it. I hope that my hopes aren't higher than what it can deliver. But I generally enjoy the Marvel movies. I mean, I think I've enjoyed all of them on some level. I don't rewatch Iron Man 2 or Incredible Hulk a lot or whatever, but yeah. Oh, there's Chrissy. So is this character a boy or a girl? She is a girl. She's maybe a little tomboyish, maybe. So as far as like, how feminine I'm making her, like eventually you're going to see a few curves, but not like a ton, if that makes sense. There's a dog howling out in the wilderness. I don't know if you all can hear it. I don't think it's loud enough to come through on like my microphone, but wow. So I've added a new benefit on my Patreon. It's for like people at the highest tier. But I'm doing commentaries now on my old episodes to talk through like sort of the process, what my goals were, what I think worked, what didn't, etc. Yeah. You can hear it? That's funny. Did you deliberately marry Chrissy because you had the same name? Yep, that was the main reason. I thought you were proofreading for some comics like Walking Dead. I do proofread for all of the Skybound books, but that is not a paying position. I am not the only one that they send them out to. I think I might have been either the first or the second that they started sending stuff to, or Kirkman, really, before there was a Skybound, back when it was like Funkotron. But I'm definitely not the only one, so they don't pay me for that. It's not the same as an editor. That's okay. What pens do you use to ink? Cool question, Jay. This particular one is a Pigma Fine. It's a brush pen, and then I have some Microns as well. So I tend to like the Pigma stuff for when I'm working kind of quick, and if I have like a really important piece, then and I don't know what defines important, to be honest. Like, this is important to me to do a good job, but I also have brushes and quills. Seahots. Oh, hi. You caught me entering a Comic Tropes live art chat. Speaking of Comic Tropes, let's talk about how good that art is. Is that like a part-time job? Which one, James? If you're talking about YouTube, I mean, I guess technically that's a part-time job. My full-time job is selling them cars, slinging cars, and then YouTube takes up as much time as it wants to take up. I would say that in general, I spend at least 20 hours on each episode, and I probably a lot more sometimes. This last one, I know that, like, if you've seen the Brian Hitch episode, it's not like it necessarily looks that much different than any other episode, but for whatever reason, it took me a long time to edit, and I was up. It's very important to me that I get the episode ready by Sunday. That can be very difficult to stick to that schedule depending on my work week. I had a very busy work week with not like any real time off during the week to work on it. And so I was editing up until Saturday night. I didn't have to work Sunday morning, so that was cool. I sat down to edit at about 9 o'clock, and I basically made all the cuts that I needed to do and assembled the material. But now I needed to get the shots and slot them in, and that took me until 6:30 in the morning. The sun had come up. It was crazy. My back was killing me because I'd stayed still the whole time. What's the most fun outdoor segment you've shot for Comic Tropes? Definitely would have to be when I was hanging out with my buddy Jason in LA. We talked about Astro Boy, and then we went out and did like karaoke and stuff, and we're just like we went out to well, it's closed now, but Meltdown Comics, and I don't know, that was just because I was with a friend, I guess. Like, that was just really, really fun. Also up there is the completely ridiculous, like, Godzilla type of piece that I made for one episode. For an episode where I review Godzilla. Wiley says, it sounds more... Oh, proofreading comics. Yeah, I would say that's more volunteer than anything else, That's volunteer. Did you get new bolts for your crossbow? Oh, yeah, that was something I did outside, was shoot at a target with my crossbow. No, never really replaced that. Those crossbow bolts remain lost forever. Oh well. That was fun too, though, that dressing up and shooting at targets and all. What other questions? I'm glad your channel exists. Thanks, Jay. I'm glad too. I just saw the episode with Jay. It was cool to see a book I'm in on your channel. The episode with Jay. I'm not sure which one you're talking about, Jay Andrew World. I'm sorry. I'm a little confused. When you did your skit on Mark Bagley, I thought you were going to say, speaking of garbage, let's talk about Mark Bagley. I don't think he's garbage. I'll be honest. If you watch it, and you pay attention, I'm not overly enthusiastic. I think that Mark Bagley is talented. He's not my personal favorite, but one thing I do sort of regret is that I didn't explicitly spell out in the episode. I don't think, maybe I did say it, but I don't think I remember to. Is that Mark Bagley was the artist on SpiderMan with its highest ever circulation ever. SpiderMan circulation was huge initially, and stayed really, really strong through those Ditko and Romita years, no question. And it never really lagged that bad. It always sold very, very well. Oh, Jason Rodriguez. Yes. Thank you, J. Andrew World. Excuse me. Yeah, that's right. We mentioned Artists Against Police Brutality, which both my friend Jason and you worked on. That's right. Now I get it. But yeah, like, believe it or not, like, as popular as Todd McFarlane was, and as popular as Eric Larson was, the book actually sold more copies every month under Mark Bagley. He was the artist that, if you're just talking eyeballs, more people have seen a Mark Bagley Spider-Man comic than anyone else, especially when you factor in that he had not just like a 5 or 7 year run on Amazing Spider-Man, but then 11 years or so or 9 years, something like that, on Ultimate Spider-Man. So more people have been exposed to Mark Bagley's interpretation of Spider-Man than any other artist. There is no question. So I don't know if I mentioned that explicitly in that episode. I like the episode about Mexican Spider-Man. That was fun. That was fun to sort of find a pretty obscure comic, and I took a long time translating that. My friend Angelique did help a little bit when I would just sort of like say, hey, am I translating this right? But I basically translated that myself. I am not a fluent Spanish speaker, but I did take it in college. I know the vocabulary. I have a very hard time listening to it and picking it up, but I can read and write if I have a lot of time. And so I was kind of proud of myself that I did that. That was a very fun episode to make. So I was pretty happy with how that came out. I love how Mark drew Batman and the Spider-Man and Batman crossover. Boy, I really stuttered over that one. I picked up Hellboy and Tick trades today from your recommendation. Oh, good. I hope you enjoy them. I sincerely love both of those comics. Like, that's unequivocal. Like, those are two books that I really, really enjoy. At least, like, the Ben Edlund Tick stuff makes me laugh. And Mike Mignola is one of my personal favorite artists. I love Hellboy. I love what he's done with Hellboy. I haven't seen the movie. I don't know if anybody out there has seen it. A couple of my friends saw it. None of them really were enthusiastic about it. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's that great, which is too bad, but, whatever. We always have the comics. It's not super important to me that, like, every comic book adaptation is good. It's nice when it is, but yeah, doesn't sound like that one's doing too great. Right now, I'm just feathering some black in on the this leather jacket. I'll tell you something. There's almost nothing easier and more fun to ink than black leather. I'm serious. I think it's pretty easy to make it look good, and you just sort of have to spend some time. Sorry guys if you can hear my cat. He obviously wants to come in, but really he doesn't. He just wants food. Trust me. I know him. He just wants food. I sort of want a glass of water. I forgot. Hey, Chrissy, if by any chance you're watching, and you don't have to do this, but if you would be willing to get me a glass of water, I'd be super grateful. If you're watching. What is your favorite comic book store in the world? Oh, that's a fun question, Patrick. Let me think. There's an NEC in Quincy that I talk about in my Tick episode that's like basically the first comic store I ever went to. So for nostalgia purposes, I really enjoy going back there. In terms of the overall selection, I would say that the Midtown Comic Store is pretty fantastic. That's basically close to Times Square in New York City. It's quite large. It's quite large. It's got a lot of selection. There's a lot to recommend about that place. And then, it really upsets me that it's not around anymore, but Meltdown Comics in LA was a really fantastic store. It had a great selection. They usually had, they always had artwork on display. Like they treated it like a gallery, and there was like like every month there was a show. In the back was a small theater that a lot of every night there was a show. It was a really nice comic book store. And then I am a big fan. I've got like 2 local comic book stores that I do enjoy going to. One is called Atomic Comics, and the other is called Stargazer Comics. And both of those have like a really good selection and a really nice informed staff that's not like socially awkward or anything like you can find at some stores. So those are some. Bring him a glass of vodka. Care Bear says, it's odd that Mignola doesn't like the Del Toro movies. He was heavily involved in making them as far as I can tell. Does he not like them? I never heard that he didn't like them. I just, he wanted to... He does 100% own his creation, and he just wanted something new. And Del Toro, was not available. Guillermo del Toro commits himself to a lot of projects, and if you follow his career, he only does about 5% of them that you ever hear about. But Mignola, he only has one life, and this is what he owns. So I harbor no ill will against him for wanting to try a different Hellboy adaptation. But maybe he should have been more patient. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, so personally, I reserve judgment. I have not seen it yet. I guess Chrissy isn't watching anymore. That's okay. Just should have grabbed a glass of water. I'm tremendously parched. And the reason I don't just go up and get it myself is I'd have to go all the way downstairs. I'd be gone for quite a while, so I'm just going to tough it out. But if any of you want to Uber me a water... Just kidding. What do you think of the recent Avengers event series with No is the running theme? No surrender, no road home. I haven't read it. Sorry. Who's a better Spider-Man artist, Chris? Todd McFarlane, Mark Bagley, or Eric Larson? Personally, I'll go with Eric Larson. I like Eric Larson. I think he's got solid fundamentals. I think he's really fun. There's a lot. Like he's my personal favorite out of those 3. I really like Eric Larson's work. I'm looking forward to someday doing a dedicated episode to his work. You can take a break, Chris. I could, but it's all right. Contrary to others, I enjoyed the Hellboy movie. Oh, this is interesting to hear. Cool. Ganter says that it followed pretty closely to the Wild Hunt stories in Omnibus 3. And I do like the Wild Hunt. I think that that's a fantastic storyline. So... that's encouraging. I'm glad that somebody out there liked it. And hey, it's not like it's got like a 0% Rotten Tomatoes. Obviously, some people are enjoying it on some level, and I'm glad to hear that. So, maybe I'll enjoy it on some level too. I don't know. That would be nice, though. Going to switch pens real quick. I want this scarf to sort of have some texture, like it's fuzzy wool. So a couple quick little hash strokes here and there should help it tremendously. Make it look a little give it a little hint of the right texture. It's not real, but it's verisimilitude, right? John Romita Jr. John Romita Jr. is up there as one of my favorite Spider-Man artists. Larson's chill until you talk about Burn. Hey, Craig. But the thing you need to understand about Erik Larson is he's outspoken about his opinions, but he does back it up with, his evidence. And I don't think he absolutely hates John Byrne. I'm pretty sure he does own some original John Byrne artwork. I think he's just frustrated at how John Byrne acts as a person, not as like a creator. Or at least, there was a time when John Byrne was the king, and personally, I think it sort of bothers John that he's not there anymore. Like he never really faded away gracefully as like the king. But anyway, I haven't seen anything by him in a while, but at least he's still working, and that's nice. He is talented. He's very talented as a writer and as an artist. Larson's going to end up breaking Dave Sim's record. Oh, yeah, in terms of like the longest run on a comic? Geez, that's a good point. So Dave Sim set the record for the longest run on a comic with 300 issues of Cerebus. Let's see what issue of Savage Dragon they're up to. There. It's just Erik Larson. Let's see. Can I find out how many issues it's up to? I'm trying to figure this out. Where would I find how many issues he's got at this point? I'm just Googling it. Because he's got to be over 200 at this point, right? 243! Wow. 243. You're right. You know what? He may pass Dave Sim's record. Do you mean Todd McFarlane? He's right there. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Wow. 243. That's impressive whether you like it or not. Like, that is damned impressive. But I do like it in general. I have fallen behind. I need to catch up on Savage Dragon because I do like it. I like Larson quite a bit personally. Met him several times. He's probably forgotten who I am at this point, but for a while we knew each other. Really through Kirkman, but he was always really nice. And he draws in a really interesting way. He draws with his whole arm, which is good, but he curves his like pencil in, and he'll sort of like draw really fast like this. Like if you see me drawing my whole hand, he like curves the pencil in and just it's really interesting. Yeah, it says Todd's at 297, but we're talking the same creator on a title, not how long a title ran, because otherwise, you've got like Spider-Man and Batman and Superman and all that. See, Cerebus, Dave Sim, he did have help, but he drew every issue of Cerebus for 300 issues. And Erik Larson is still the only artist on Savage Dragon for the 243 issues. Todd McFarlane bailed after something like, 12. And then he stayed around inking, I know, but he hasn't worked on all of them. Do a Comic Tropes episode on Erik Larson. Well, I will, Terry. I will. What kind of help did he get on Cerebus? Eventually on Cerebus, Dave Sim hired a European artist named Gerard to do all the backgrounds. And Dave Sim would still do all the character work, but he had help doing the backgrounds. Which isn't that abnormal. In Japan, there are usually art assistants for things like backgrounds. Yeah, I really admire how Erik Larson can do everything, like and sometimes frequently does. Like at this point, he writes, illustrates, inks, colors Savage Dragon. He may even be doing the lettering at this point. Jack Kirby drew over 100 issues of the Fantastic Four. Yep. And for a long time, that was the record. And then Dave Sim beat him with, like Cerebus. But in terms of Spider-Man, Mark Bagley beat Jack Kirby's record for longest time on a Marvel title by doing, 111 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man. I've got 5 more weeks of school, and then it's party time. Oh, cool. Would you ever do an episode on the artist of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Yes, I probably would. A lot of people have actually requested that, so that is probably something I would do at some point. Not 100% sure when, but yeah, I probably will do that. A lot of people seem to want that to be discussed, so to a degree, I got to give people what they want. Sorry that I'm doing this episode so late, but just haven't had a lot of free time lately, so this is the first. I did have some time last night, I was about to, and then a lot of people were like, it's Easter, I'm with my family, or B, I'm watching Game of Thrones. I was like, okay, fair enough, bad timing, I will do Monday night. And so I'm really appreciative, though, that a bunch of you all came out. Thank you so much. Making comics can, even when you're collaborating, it can be a very solitary experience. So it's really nice to sometimes have, some noise in the background. And for me, like, that noise is getting to chat with people. I really like it. So anyway, just saying I'm grateful and thanks. I don't know JoJo very well. Haven't read it yet. So I still need to read it before I can do an episode about it. Who's Megan from Local? Just like it says, there was a comic called Local. Somebody requested that I draw her. It's a commission, so I looked it up and I'm drawing her. Each issue of Local is more just sort of like a story of set in like a certain town across America, and Megan is just the character that. Sometimes she's the main character, and sometimes she just sort of is a supporting character in it. She's just sort of the through line that gives it a sense of continuity, but it's just sort of a book about Americana, I guess you might say. Yeah. So I'm just sort of doing my best to make that happen. You should probably do an episode on Larry Lieber sometime. Oh, that would be an interesting one. Larry Lieber, Snowfall, right? Snow blind? Whiteout. Excuse me. Iron Shell says, same with you, Chris. I am doing a persuasive speech outline for a public speaking class for college. So you make this way better. Oh, cool. Good luck with that. I remember doing that stuff. Would you consider doing a Comic Tropes episode on Arthur Adams? No, I would not consider. Of course I would. Yeah. I like Arthur Adams quite a bit. So he's definitely somebody, there's no one that I would say no to for an episode of Comic Tropes. It's just a question of timing. But, yeah, there's so many amazing books and creators out there, I don't think I'll ever run out, because technically I feel like, I could do more than one episode on a creator too. Like I did on Liefeld, and then I've got plenty of characters or creators is what I meant to say, that have like sort of popped up in just terms of telling the history of things. Like, they've appeared in more than one episode. So, yeah, I would definitely be happy to do that at some point. Because I like to talk foreign comics, indie, mainstream, old, new. Yeah, there's no one that I would think of saying no to. I thought J. Jonah was based on Stan Lee. I don't think he based him on himself 100%, but who knows, maybe. Oh, Steve Lieber is the whiteout guy. Larry Lieber is the Spidey strip. Excuse me, Larry is Stan Lee's brother. You're right. Thank you, Jimmy Carroll. I swapped them. Let's see. Rosanna Mann says that Larry Lieber is the co-creator of Iron Man, Thor, and Ant-Man. I would like to know a thing or two about your giant sandwich furniture. Not much to know. Just looks tasty. Steve Ditko and Stan Lee didn't always get along. Well, that's the truth. They didn't get along very well at all for the most part. Very different people personality-wise. Anybody have any thoughts on the Brian Hitch episode? Anything you think I should have covered that I left out? It's always tricky to, figure out like exactly how much you're going to cover, like exactly how wide a net you're going to cast when you're deciding to discuss somebody. I wanted to focus mostly on the ultimates and what got him there. So that was sort of my primary focus, but anyway. I would really like to see you draw the Fantastic Four's Thing or Man-Thing or Thing from Addams Family. Well, you're in luck, because I actually have a shirt that I'm working on that will incorporate all of those. Any places for a visit for comic tropes? Maybe in Africa or South America? Cool question, Mandela Butterfly. The next two, well, I've got like 3 sort of locations that I'll hit at the end of this year. I will be going to New York Comic-Con, so I'll do New York City, try to do something or other New York specific when I'm there. I will be going back to Japan, so I'm doing a review of Akira when I get to Tokyo. And what else? I'll be visiting my family in Massachusetts, so less likely, but possibly something in Boston. And then as far as places I'd like to visit, I would very much like to return to Europe. So I've got some ideas for that at some point, but in the undefined future. South Africa is a possibility, and very much a possibility would be New Zealand. Those are all places we've talked about visiting. You forgot to mention Swamp Thing. Yeah. The episode was good. I believe you should draw me a Condiment King. Ooh, Condiment King. There's a challenge. This part is going to take me a while. I'm trying to illustrate like black nylon, leggings. So this is going to definitely take me a minute. Let's see, I met Stan Lee in 91 or 92. I got to ask him if he wanted to play J. Jonah Jameson, and he was like, there was a day I wanted to, but now I'm too old. He could have done a good job. Mikey Jesus, thank you so much. A super chat. He says, I find this relaxing after the first day in a new and challenging position at work. Thank you for sharing. P.S. Yeah, come to Boston and visit NEC. Well, I definitely plan on going to the Boston area for Christmas this year, and I'll probably visit one or two of the NECs during my trip there. So that is the plan. Thank you so much, Mikey. That really is nice. And it may be challenging, but congratulations on a new job. It's always an opportunity, So good luck with it. Sorry, just thinking something through here. They used to count down the days until the never-made 90s Spider-Man movie in the bullpen. The Raimi films had a perfect JJ, though. I agree with Care Bear there. Like every time they've made a Spider-Man movie since the 3 Raimi ones, I'm like, oh, please just hire J.K. Simmons again. That would just be so cool. He was just so good in that role. He was perfect. That would be dope. I'm sure there's other actors that could do a great job too, but I loved how funny J.K. Simmons was. He did a great job. Like, I don't think anybody dislikes that. Whoa, Iron Shell, thank you so much. Fave places and things you did while being in Japan. So many. That's why, I keep going back. This will be my 4th time. Some of my favorite things include anywhere in Akihabara, which is just sort of full of nothing but toy stores and video game stores, just like nerdy otaku comic book stuff. So that's always fun. There's a store called Mandarake, which is just amazing for all sorts of comic books and vintage toys, stuff like that. So a lot to like there. I like the food in Shibuya especially. Roppongi Hills is something we're going to explore in greater depth this coming visit, as well as Odabai. I might be mispronouncing that one off the top of my head. I really like going to the temples. Just find something incredibly relaxing about them. I'm not really a religious person, but I do find the temples in Japan and their ceremonies very, very chill, very, very relaxing. I like so much about it. I like how organized it is. I like Mataka Park. Oh, but in terms of favorite things, the visit to Ghibli Museum stands out. The visit to Disney Sea is memorable, quite beautiful. Yeah. The Cherry Blossom Festival. Do I like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I like it okay. I think it got better over the years, actually. It was definitely fun when, in that season 1, how it had much tighter ties to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I did enjoy that. But they also gained a lot of freedom once they were able to start telling more of their own stories and just go kind of crazy with their own mythology. So, yeah, overall, I like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. okay. Well, there's one leg down, right? Not too bad. Got renewed. Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has at least one more season coming. It's going to air this summer. They're waiting for Avengers Endgame first. ABC doesn't want to keep AOS on, but Disney is making them. Well, I don't know if that's 100% true. Favorite Oni Press comics? Scott Pilgrim. Has to be Scott Pilgrim. Such a great book. I gave up on it. Oh, okay. James says that he gave up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but he did catch, the Ghost Rider episodes. Yeah, they did a decent job on Robbie Reyes. I guess it's getting a little quiet, huh? Let me think of what kind of stories I have to tell. So, we were just talking about Japan. And I love it. But, Tokyo is still a city. And you have to be aware of where you are and what's going on. And maybe I've already told this story. If I have, I'm sorry. But my last night there, the last time I visited, I had gone down to Shibuya Crossing by myself. It was late at night, and I just wanted to get some more snacks. And Chrissy was kind of exhausted from, we'd been walking a lot. So I was like, no worries. Like, I'm just going to go get some snacks. I think it was snacks. Anyway, so I go down and I'm walking back, and the place we had rented, we did like, we're not rich. We did Airbnb for a place to stay. And we were in Shibuya. I think I just said that. And Shibuya is so amazing and nice during the day. And at night, it's... Well, it's still fine, I guess, but we were staying in an area that was the red light district, as in like strip clubs and stuff like that, sex stores. So during the day, you're not even aware of it because it's so nice, and it's still fairly residential, like lots of apartments and stuff like that. But I'm coming back that night, and oh my God, like, so I see a guy just passed out in the street, near the sidewalk, but in the street, and I was worried he could get hit by a car or something like that. Like someone would not see him because he's just laying down. And I was like, okay, he's drunk, he's passed out. But I'm worried about him too because I go up to him and I'm like, I don't speak that much Japanese. I know like hello and maybe I'd memorized a few phrases, but basically I was speaking English and I'm like, are you okay? And I think I knew that much in Japanese, but it's not coming to me right now. So I was like going are you okay, sir? You gotta move. Are you okay? And I was like having the hardest time getting him to like react at all. I just wanted to sort of drag him at least onto the sidewalk where he'd be safer, and potentially get him some help. I'm looking around and he doesn't seem to have any friends. Eventually, a really nice young Japanese lady comes up to me. She's got 2 guy friends with her, and she's like, "Oh, is this your friend?" And I go, "No, I don't know him. You speak English?" And she's like, "Yeah, I do." She's like, "This is like really common. This guy's just some businessman that got like drunk and he passed out, like, And I was like, "I know, but like, I'm like, he's in the street here. It looks like he's bashed his head. He had like a scratch that was pretty bad, like it was bleeding a little bit." And I'm like, "I'm just worried about him." And she's like, "No, you're right. Like, we should watch out for him. Like, people here just ignore him." But like, she's like, we will help. And like they like flagged down a police officer somehow. I didn't see one, but they were able to flag one down, and they were like, "You don't speak the language, it's totally okay, like that was really nice of you, but like we definitely have it from here." I'm like, "Thank you, that's like so nice. I was just worried about this man." So it was good. It didn't take that long. I walk away and some other lady grabs my arm and I'm like, "Whoa." And she's like, "That was so nice what you did." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And she's like, "Why don't you take a load off, honey?" I'm like, and she's like, cheap. I give you a good deal. Like, you help that man." And I was like, "Oh, this is a prostitute propositioning me." I was like, no, I'm good. And I got propositioned by like 2 more prostitutes just walking back that night. That was like, if you walk alone at night in the city, alone, instead of like with friends or certainly a girlfriend, apparently prostitutes just walk right up to you, and they all were saying the same thing. They just go, "Take a load off." It's just so scummy. I was like, no thanks. What a sales pitch, right? Hello, Castiel. Good morning. Jeff likes that story. Cool. So anyway, yeah. Gomenasai. No thanks. I'm sorry. It was a unique final evening, and didn't know what to make of any of it. I just sort of was like, it's still a city. It had like, so much of Japan had like impressed me with how clean and polite it was, and then I was like, it's still a city. That's all. It's got like a seamy underbelly to it all. You just don't always see it as a tourist. I thought you were going to get superpowers. Instead, you got a prostitute. No, I didn't get a prostitute. I said, "Thank you." Literally, take a load off. Yeah, that was their phrase. That was like what all 3 of them said. Like, and I'm not making that up. There was like 3 of them in a row. They were like, "Take a load off, honey." I was like, Anyway, so that was creepy. Have you ever read or heard of the Italian comic Sky Doll? No, I'm afraid I have not heard about Sky Doll. What's Sky Doll? But I'm not an expert on Italian comics. I know Dylan Dog is probably the one I know the most, and then I know Diabolique or Diabolic. I'm not really even sure how it's pronounced. I've read a tiny bit of that. What else have I read in Italy? I've read a few things. Actually, Hugo Pratt. Isn't Hugo Pratt Italian? Because I've read his stuff. He was Italian. Trying to think of what else. I don't know. Chris the American Godzilla John. Yeah. Makes me think, take a load off, Freddy. I don't know what that's from. Sorry, I don't understand that reference. Yeah, it was an interesting end to my visit. Martin Mystery. Phantomas. Yeah, I've heard of Phantomas, but I haven't read it. Your Japan red light story sounds a bit like Billy Batson being taken to see Shazam. You may have missed your opportunity. But I did the moral thing, so shouldn't I have gotten powers? Not sure. I don't know. Feels like I should have gotten powers out of all that. I thought that Shazam movie was pretty good. They never really addressed exactly what they were calling him. Except for, well, I can't really say it without spoiling it, but he basically doesn't really he definitely doesn't call himself Captain Marvel, but he also doesn't really call himself Shazam because he can't say that without just saying his magic word and transforming. So I found that kind of like just weird. Like I was just like, this guy doesn't like have a name. He says a magic word, but that's the wizard's name. Like, he doesn't... He has no way of calling himself Shazam without transforming. I don't know. I'm overthinking this, I guess. It just felt strange while I was watching the movie. I was like, no one's calling him anything. Like, not really. That's not really much of a complaint. I enjoyed that movie. Shazamu. The boardroom scene was my favorite part. That was pretty decent. I got the power of respecting my fiance. Thank you. Billy Batson is a juvenile delinquent in the new movie. He is, but that's so that he has a character arc. He's you can't just have somebody noble from the beginning and then noble at the end and call that a story. That's not really a story. His story is he's not making the best decisions, but he does have a moral center. He's doing bad things for still a good reason. You know, he wants to reconnect with his mom. He wants to find his family. That's not like a bad thing. He treats bullies kind of roughly, but he does that to stick up for his new family. So it's like he does have like a conscience. And then the whole story is about him deciding to be a hero for good reasons instead of just using his abilities for selfish reasons. So I like that. There was an arc to it. You know, he made a decision to be a better person. So I liked it quite a bit. I was like, yeah, this is about something. It's not just like, oh, there's a bad guy and he wants to destroy the world, so we can't have that. I'll stop him. That's boring, you know. It was a little deeper than that, and I appreciated that. It was a little corny and cheesy, but it sort of knew that it was. So anyway, totally worked for me. Captain America was noble all the way through all of his movies. Well, that's sort of true, and in a way, like, he still like is having to. He still has conflict, you know, but like I would say that the first Captain America movie, the first half is better than the second half. The first half of watching Steve Rogers struggle to do what he believes is the right thing without like having the tools to do it is a really interesting struggle. And then as soon as he becomes Captain America, you know, he's just fighting not Nazis with lasers and stuff like that. So, and I like it. I don't know. He doesn't like his whole conflict is just sort of proving himself. Yeah. I mean, he certainly had plenty of conflict in both Winter Soldier and Civil War, in terms of like, and even the Avengers movies, like in terms of deciding the right thing to do, the moral thing to do. Yeah, Steve's arc was going from weakling to beefcake, but that's not really like an internal thing. That's not, I don't know. I still like the movie. It's just that like I'd have to sit down and really think about where it worked and where it didn't. That movie was like greatly aided by Haley Atwell. That was. I feel like in all of the Marvel movies, there's not that many romances that work super well, but the Peggy Carter Steve Rogers one is definitely their best. That was the most convincing love story, the best chemistry, and after that, like maybe Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne for Ant-Man 2. There's not a lot of like good romance in there. Whew, I am really taking my time on this, aren't I? Sorry. So I've talked a little bit about where I've traveled. Like, it doesn't have to be a foreign country or anything like that, but where's your favorite trip that you've ever taken? Travel for me is like the most interesting thing. I just am fascinated with trying to see as much of the world as I can in my brief time spinning around the globe. There's pretty much nowhere I wouldn't want to visit if given the opportunity. So in other words, I'm sort of always looking for recommendations. Hawaii, yep, beautiful. New York, love New York. Toronto, yep. Toronto, I got money from a homeless person. Uh-oh, time to take a shower or something, J. Andrew World. Yeah, Hawaii is lovely. I've been there a few times. Hawaii is paradise. Hawaii is gorgeous. Speaking of the comic book movies, I hear the new Hellboy movie not doing very well. What's your opinion? Haven't seen it. Doesn't look amazing, but who knows? I haven't seen it, so I don't know. Puerto Rico, yeah. Yeah, I sort of know what you're talking about, James. Puerto Rico's in tough times. Cozumel in Mexico, sure. Yeah. Actually, I haven't been to Cozumel. I've only been like to sort of Tijuana. So I don't know Mexico super well now that I think of it. I can't give a super informed opinion on that one. But I'm lucky, I guess. I've been to all these places that you guys have listed so far, and I would love to go back to all of them, to be honest. My car broke down and I was having trouble getting a hold of my mom. A homeless person gave me $2 Canadian and I took that and went to the pizza. Very nice. Milan and Rome were great. I've been to Rome. I haven't had the privilege of going to Milan. That would be lovely. Going to Italy in October. Oh, how lovely, Gantris. Whereabouts? North? South? I've only been to Rome and Florence. No, excuse me. My sister went to Florence. I've only been to Rome and Venice. I almost took credit for where my sister went. What's a bucket list option besides travel that you want to do before? Skydive. Did you apply to Marvel or DC? You know, when I was a kid, I was like 18, I applied to Marvel. I was definitely not a very good artist at age 18, so I did not get accepted. I applied like twice. And then I just sort of got distracted from applying more because just working. I've done some self-published and indie stuff, as well as a few work for hire things on like educational comics of books that you can actually get in comic book stores and bookstores and Amazon and stuff like that. Venice and Florence are great places. Yeah. Travel agencies should give you free trips to advertise on comic tropes. Yeah. Yeah, Craig, that's what I'm talking about. Tijuana. But I went there like just with my family for the day. Like we didn't do anything too crazy. Just had a nice lunch, did some shopping. I would argue it was probably safer back when I went in like the 80s than it might be now. Which isn't fun to say, but I don't know. I could be wrong, but you hear a lot of scary stuff going on there these days. You can't even use skydiving in real life because you can't jump out of a commercial plane. It just seems like fun. Always wanted to go to Ireland. Haven't gone there yet. You will then. You will. If that's important to you, you can make it happen. Barcelona and Madrid. I'd love to go there. That would be nice. That would be really nice. How long have I been going? Oh, almost an hour and a half, and I feel like I haven't really filled in too much of this sort of middle area too well. Well, just keep trying. Okay. What song do you have playing in your head right now? Honeybee by Steam Powered Giraffe, Mr. Roboto. Love it. You ink with pretty good precision. I wish mine's could look as good polished. I don't know if I do, but, that's kind of you. I'll take it. Always trying to get better, Always trying to get better. I'm going to switch back to a brush. Thicker brush. Make some thicker strokes. What other songs? Bee Gees' Staying Alive, Light Up the Night by Proto-Men, The Bard's Song, In the Forest by Blind Guardian. All right. The North Korean Godzilla movie Pulgarasi is pretty interesting. Apparently, that Godzilla is a metaphor Soviet Union. Well, and now, of course, their leader's going to go hang out with Putin, so... Probably whoever made that movie will now be thrown in jail, even though the government probably asked them to make that movie. How dare you insinuate something bad about our Russian allies? But you told me you'll pay for this. If you want an interesting comic book about North Korea, there's a great book called Pyongyang by Guy Delisle. Guy Delisle is a cartoonist and an animator from Canada, and he was once directing some, how do I describe this? So he worked for a Canadian animation company, and they outsourced some of their work to North Korea. Believe it or not, North Korea does do a limited amount of animation work, just like a lot of other Asian countries. And so Guy Delisle was the producer sent to supervise it, and he had to live there for a while. And he made a comic book when he got back about his time living in North Korea. Very interesting. It's a nonfiction comic, and he just talks about how they're constantly sort of trying to fool him into thinking that the country's doing great, and how it always was dealing with blackouts and stuff like that. It's an interesting book. Pyongyang by Guy Delisle. Strong recommend. Really good. Let's see. It looks like Iron Shell and C. Kim just became friends. Awesome. Is this girl you're drawing anything like the ones you met in Japan? No, she's mostly supposed to be white, just sort of more of a sort of indie style girl. She's from a comic called, what was it called again? Local. And it's a commission. Somebody wanted this character, more of a real world person. So I was like, yeah, I'll take that challenge. Let's see what I can do. I don't know. But so far, so good. Pearl Jam's Do the Evolution, great animated music video. Yeah, I agree with that. Pyongyang kind of sounds like Joe Sacco's Palestine. You know what? You're not 100% wrong. I think that Joe Sacco's books and Guy Delisle's are very similar. They're nonfiction comics about parts of the world that we don't often get to see, at least here in North America and in the West in general. And I think that there's a lot that you can learn from just a slice of life story like them. Anyway, I love it. I think it just gets a strong recommend from me, and hopefully it's something you might like to check out. I'll have to do an episode on it sometime, actually, on Good Guide to Lyle's work, because it really is something that I think more people should be aware of. His only book is not Pyongyang. He's also lived in China and Burma, so he's lived in some pretty remote parts of the world. Not remote. I shouldn't say that. That's just not accurate. He's lived in some parts of the world that we here in the West don't always... We hear about the big news and stuff, but we don't necessarily hear about what day-to-day life is like in these countries. And so it gives us an appreciation for what its citizens have as a day-to-day normal routine. That's all. And I think it's funny and charming and interesting seeing people, try to have little parties and go to the grocery store and just live their lives under some very different circumstances than we're used to. You're not that late, Clay. I've been working quite a while. Commissions. I'll be able to afford them one day, and then you're drawing my characters. Maybe. Definitely planning on seeing Endgame. Probably not on opening weekend, though. See, I got tickets, or really Chrissy, my fiance, got us tickets on Friday, the 26th, and it's at reserved seating theater, so we know we've got good seats and the recliners, so no one can really block our view or anything. We're anticipating it'll be a good experience. Hope so. We'll see. So hopefully this has been a little interesting seeing me draw completely from scratch, and it makes it obvious that, I can draw. The last time I did something, someone was saying like, oh, you already have like your outlines and stuff. And it's like, I do. And as you can see, this is like, I haven't really been able to even finish this yet. I tend to do my live streams after I've done my roughs and I found the form that I want to use, and then I can go more straight to inks. But this one, I wanted to be able to show you all that I can draw straight from scratch. Like, it's not like I'm trying to trick anybody. I'm going to zoom in just a little more so you can actually sort of see what I'm drawing here. Hopefully that is somewhat interesting or educational. And I do need someday a camera that captures the details a little better. You can see even like when I show this, there's like a little bit of fuzziness. So I can't quite like lock in that crispness that like, I'm kind of proud of on certain parts of this drawing. I'm proud of some of it, but she's cute. Good. I was trying to, just, it's not my character, but I want to do her justice. Tired. Got work in the morning. And I got more comic tropes to make. Never quite get out from behind that ball. Sorry, I just realized I wasn't keeping it framed up. Sorry about that. Probably getting a little boring now. I guess I'm getting a little quiet, so we'll wrap this up in a sec. You should do a comic tropes about Atlas Comics. That was an interesting period of time in the comics business. Yeah, I agree. Atlas Comics was an interesting experiment. I mentioned them a little bit in my episode about distribution, because they were trying to do something a little different, and if they had taken off, that would have been a huge step forward for creators' rights, probably. But just didn't quite seem to take off, did it? But yeah, that would be interesting. I also think it would be interesting to talk about Charlton Comics, because they were kind of controlled by the mob. So I think that would be an interesting angle to talk about. Not necessarily the kind of thing that everybody in the world knows about. So could be fun anyway. We'll see. Charlton was owned by the mob. Yeah, basically. It was, shoelaces can be annoying to draw sometimes. I agree. Kind of burned out, honestly. Let's see. So, there's my take, more or less, on the character of Megan from the comic Local. Plaid. So plaid. All right, let's see what's going on in the comic tropes on Image Comics. What say you? Depends on what era you're talking about, doesn't it? There's so much to say. Hard to say anything without like really an era to talk about. But overall, I really like Image Comics. I like what they did for the industry. I like what the founders were going for, and I like a lot of the comics that they put out these days. So, a lot of positive comments for Image Comics in general. What else? There is a Chris Bocciolo thing happening in your drawing. Yeah, maybe. I think he's got even more detail and sort of harder angles to his lines. Mine might be a little more flowing than his, but yeah, I sort of see what you're talking about. I'll take it. He's a good artist, so I'll take it. I prefer a lot of Chris Bocciolo's earliest work. He did make some changes. He evolved his art style, and he's had a lot of success. But I really like a lot of his early stuff. Anyway, he did a bunch of stuff, if I'm remembering right, for Vertigo that I liked early on. I'm not sure. Do you remember when Neil Adams started a comics company? It crashed. Yeah. Actually, it didn't really crash and burn almost immediately like you think, because his goal was not to do just comic books. It was to also do things like animatics and storyboards. So he actually worked for a long time with his company. It may even still be around, and they did the Nasonex bee. If you remember those ads with the bee that like talks about your allergies and he sounds like Antonio Banderas, that was done by Neil Adams' company. So he had quite a bit of a success with his company. Nasonex. Ever watched Robert Kirkman's Secret History of Comics? No, I haven't. I would actually love to see that. I don't have cable. I can't afford it right now, so I couldn't see it. I guess I could have actually called him up and asked if there's some way I could see it digitally or something like that, but I felt kind of maybe beggy if I did that, and I don't want to sound like a beggar. So, no, I haven't seen it yet. I'd be very curious to. I remember Skate Man lasted one issue. Yeah, Skate Man, maybe I'll have to do an episode about that someday. Just a quick stop. It was a long day, and everybody have a nice week. Well, thank you for jumping in, Evil Cone. I tried. Evil Cone. Image Comics early years for comic tropes, maybe. You're right. It depends what era. Yeah, they've gone through a lot of changes to define what exactly they are, but early on, I mean, I respect them for being a disruptor. I'm always gonna side with disruptors, changing things up. So I dig that. Milo, stop it! My cat wants to come in, but I'm almost done. I think gonna probably feed him, get that water that I've been wanting for a bit, and. I don't know. I just need to finish some of this leg, but I think at this point, like, that would be kind of monotonous to watch me wrap up. I appreciate everybody being here. This was definitely helpful for me to get through this piece, and I'm glad I could do another show. And thank you also for the couple people that shot me some super chats. That's always appreciated. So thank you very much for that. It helps a lot. Wish it didn't need to, but anyway. Now I can use this kneaded eraser and just sort of get rid of some of the underpinning lines. And oops, I did a little too fast. I got a small smudge there. I just should probably be safe up here. The ink was still a little bit wet when I did one part. I think that starts to look better, you know. Get rid of any sort of sketchiness and just have the lines that you selected at the end. Oh, that's too bad about the little smudge, but it's not the worst. Well, I think next Comic Tropes will be, I know it will be. It will be about a writer, and I've got a bunch of indie stuff that I really want to tackle for this summer. So as soon as I get an opportunity, expect some pretty important indie creators to get featured. I think that there's a lot of them that did important things for the industry, and so I'd love to cover that. I think people will like it. Anyway, yeah. I'll finish the rest of this up in my own time. Thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm going to take off now. Any questions to wrap up? She's pretty. Thank you. Not going to lie, I was hoping your fiance would do a Deus Machina like she did with the kneaded eraser that one time. I know, that was nice. That was nice. Every once in a while, I think she was only watching at the beginning. That's okay. Good night. Yes, thank you. Thank you all. I'll try to be funnier next time. I didn't come with much pre-planned material, so I'll have to have some stories ready for one of these to make it appointment viewing. But it was a fun Monday evening. I'm glad I could do some drawing and chat with all of you. Thank you for watching the Brian Hitch episode. Thank you for subscribing and sharing and stuff like that. By the way, Brian Hitch actually retweeted. One person tweeted a link to my episode, and he actually retweeted that. So I guess he, wasn't offended or anything. He must have liked it. So that's kind of cool. I should draw Dr. Girlfriend from Venture Brothers next. Well, I've got a bunch of commissions I need to bang out. That's why I'm doing this, and that's why I've done the recent ones that I've been doing on the live stream. These are all commissions that I said I would do to help a friend out that had to do a GoFundMe. So these are all commissions that I haven't gotten to draw something that I want to draw for myself in a little while, but making my way through that. This one I'm happy with because I didn't have any reference for that. I don't know if I got the character 100% right because I have never watched Naruto, but I definitely looked at a lot of images. I don't know, I kind of like that one. And then a super colorful Captain Marvel. All right, everybody. That will do it. I'll see you soon. Keep reading comics. Bye.